got recommended on the feed another video on $1 billion urban vanity project. You guys seen this one? It kind of blew up. Baltimore's $1 billion ghost town. It's sad. No one's ever like, I'm going to revitalize this city by building a dense, walkable, textured neighborhood. It's always like, you know, what do they describe it in the video? Like Dubai and Baltimore? Look at this. They just built this. Look how empty it is.
Right now I'm walking through Baltimore's newest and swankiest waterfront neighborhood. It's a beautiful Saturday, but there's just one thing missing. People. Like literally any people anywhere. On this particular Saturday, I walked around for about a half an hour, and I could just about count all the people I saw on one hand. So what's going on here? Why are there all these beautiful new buildings, but seemingly no one here to use them? For that, we need to look back at what led up to the Baltimore Peninsula redevelopment project as we see it today.
Pretty rough, right? Are there things to do there? Nah. I live near there. It's crazy how empty it is. It's all like empty office space. Also, and I've said this before, but like a consistent issue in American commercial zoning is why are all of the lots so fucking big? You can tell just by looking here. Like you could fit 20 little shops here if you wanted to, but instead, like every store has to be like 5,000 square feet. You know.
And I could just about count all the people I saw on one hand. People. Maury and myself, I was stoked. Besides the economic...
See, there's just no way to have like a small little hole-in-the-wall business here. It's simply not possible.
Impact that it would have on the city, the construction nerd in me couldn't wait to have a front row seat to see an entirely new city built from the ground up. Despite the grand visions, though, controversy surrounded the project from the beginning. While tax incentives and financial support from the city to wealthy developers is quite common, and maybe a little too common, this particular one set off a fiery debate. First off, the scale of the tax incentives was something never before seen in the city. Many times...
It does look nice. When I see stuff like this, to me, it registers as inauthentic. There was a very nice upscaled redevelopment done in one area around my hometown in Century City when they re-upped it. The difference is that that was in Beverly Hills, which is very wealthy. So people can afford to go to the very high-end shops that were set up there. This is in Baltimore. And I'm not saying that like in a derogatory way or anything. I'm just saying like there are few parts of the world where you can do like a super upscaled, everything here is going to be really pricey kind of like, you know, urban renewal project. And Beverly Hills would be one of those places. But if I was trying to revitalize Baltimore, the thing I would think is like, let's build row houses, motherfucker. Let's build row houses, mixed zoning, dense walkable neighborhoods, you know. Let's have it all be pretty well lit because Baltimore does have a crime issue, right? Let's make it like accessible via bus so we have like robust public transit that's well funded. And let's try to like get a cycle built over here. Maybe some like tax incentives for small businesses so that if it's the only one of that business that exists, like it's not a franchise or it's not like a chain or whatever, you get like a small tax incentive, helps keep the money in the community, that kind of stuff, you know? But instead they're like, well, what if we dumped $1 billion into like this mega project where it's like, it's so inhuman too, because you've got these stores, like, you have this gigantic walkway, and then you have these tiny little round tables with 2 chairs, you know? This is something else I notice. In America, they prioritize the walkway because they want you to move the fuck on. But if you look at pictures of streets in, like, Italy, or when I went to Baltimore, they would have, like, restaurant tables and chairs that would spill out into the sidewalk. Like, they would take up space because you're actually meant to lounge there, you know what I mean? You're actually like, it's not just like a tiny little vanity table that's there to not make you feel like, did I say Baltimore? Barcelona, when I went to Barcelona. I mean, I have been to Baltimore, but when I went to Barcelona. Yeah. It's like Strode's, but for walking.
What was provided for similar projects like Harbor East and Harbor Point. But the bigger question that many ask was quite simply, why is a struggling city like Baltimore making hundreds of millions of dollars in concessions to its richest citizen? all for what many saw to be a vanity project.
It's like even when they're ostensibly not building it for cars, they're still building it for cars. Yeah, you kind of get that feeling in everything you see. Everything is too big. Nothing's cozy or intimate enough, you know? It looks like you could drive a car through this.
Project that would only benefit a few select residents in the upper class. People on the opposite side of the debate, however, including many of the city's politicians, saw this argument as an oversimplification and eventually passed the tax incentive package of over $600 million. A year later, Goldman Sachs jumped on board with a very public $250 million commitment to.
Yeah, you see what I mean with this outdoor area? None of it, it doesn't feel authentic. Maybe it's because the outdoor seating is provided by the venue rather than by the stores that are out there. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
The project, and it looked like the project was unstoppable. A little over a year after that, ground was broken. Uncertainty did start to grow regarding the future of the project. Additionally, something that's far less in demand than it was about 10 years ago prior to the pandemic. This combination of limited...
See, like, look at this, man. I don't understand what the incentive is for... There is literally no amount of foot traffic that would justify having this much space to walk through. There's no... This is the capacity that you would see for concert venues or something. Like, why do you need a 30-foot wide walking way? You know, I don't understand.
Demand has led to limited foot traffic on the street, as you can very clearly see in this video. The lack of foot traffic, in turn, has led to a lack of retail in most of the ground floors of the buildings, which has led for less reason to be out on the street in the first place, thus reducing foot traffic even further. Now,
it's just a shame because for the amount of money that it took to build this gigantic project, I feel like you could have made something, you could have made so much more. Like, because this is all quite expensive. You could have made so much more and it would have actually served a purpose.
In 2025, there's been very little chatter recently about new buildings breaking ground or even early renderings of what the next phases of construction may bring. While there's some other residential units under construction further down the peninsula, they're not part of this project. This means that even if there are no further setbacks, we're still likely several years out from any significant additions to the Baltimore Peninsula project. Now, if this were a project that didn't pressure the city into giving it generous tax incentives, I would be totally cool with the slow timeline. Unfortunately,
it's built like a major university or something. Yeah, but at least universities have people walking around, right?
Because the development team chose to go the route of tax incentives, the timeline matters and milestones in office space following the pandemic.
Dude, look at this. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the area around the Grove in LA. To anyone who's been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The tiny fake black brick and black like street lights, the massive wide crosswalks, you know, there's it's this, I'm getting the feel. How the hell do these people have jobs? Because all of this looks really, really, really impressive to people who don't live downtown, but rather they live in the suburbs and visit downtown for their weekend trips. That's like 90% of the problem of development in the United States. The people who approve and design these projects live in the suburbs, and they imagine everything downtown as like a parking lot / shopping mall for them to visit, rather than as a place to live in. This used to not be an issue because suburbs used to not exist. Wealthy people used to live in the same dense urban areas that everyone else in the city lived in, right? Like in 1910 or whatever, the wealthy people weren't living in like little exurbs outside the city, you know. Well, sometimes they would live like, I don't know, like upstate New York, like they would have a manor or something. But if they were doing business, they had like, they lived in the city. They didn't just like visit it or whatever. But nowadays, yeah, total disconnect. What channel's this? Small one, Building Tales. First time I've seen a video from theirs, but I like their walkabout.
The development team was pushing hard to draw in new employers, providing high-paying jobs that could be the rock that the whole project was built on. This has become increasingly challenging in the last...
This is another big issue. It's that whenever people want to do these like urban finance project or urban renewal projects, they're like, well, obviously we want to build it out with lots and lots of office space, you know, because we want people to have high paying jobs here. And it's like, no. This is fucking Baltimore, dude. Like, come on. Everyone wants to build like a little tech mini capital in the middle of their city. Fuck that. Those areas aren't even profitable to the city. Get rid of that shit, okay? Just build like a dense network of service commercial jobs, you know?
Few years. In an effort to attract different industries, the project's marketing team has been constantly rebranding, although seemingly with limited success. First, the project was called Port Covington, the historical name of the area. Then, for a while, it was being referred to as Cybertown, USA.
See? I didn't even make it to this point in the video. But it's so predictable. And again, this is the issue we have with housing across the United States, right? Whenever, like, it's hard enough to get people to build new housing, but then when they do, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll build new housing, and they build luxury high-rise condos for single tech workers. They don't build, like, actual, like, housing for people, you know, for, like, real human beings. The only margin they want to make on their investment is like a huge one, so they want the most profitable possible, like, ratio of building to payout, which is, again, like, if you are making high-rise luxury condos to bachelors. That's as good as it gets, because then every single person is paying like $3,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. You know, no one's ever like, yeah, we're going to build a bunch of housing for normal people that normal people can afford. They don't do that, even though they would still make a profit off of it.
In an effort to try to create a so-called Silicon Valley of the East. Then the team made a strong but unsuccessful push to make the site the home of Amazon's new headquarters.
Jesus
Recently,
Christ.
the project was rebranded again as the Baltimore Peninsula.
Literally, like, they will not build anything unless it is for people making 150K a year or more. They cannot fathom it. There is no way to get housing developers to invest in a project that isn't at that level of return, which is why housing needs to be decommodified.
Big problem for the project has been Under Armour's weakness over the years. Its new headquarters was going to be a cornerstone of the project with multiple gleaming waterfront towers. Now it's been scaled back to the point where it's just a converted Sam's Club, a converted Walmart, and one new mid-rise tower. The company has also shed employees, so instead of thousands and thousands of workers going to work at the headquarters each day, there are significantly less. Again, that takes us back to the problem of no foot traffic in the area. The struggles of Under Armour have had another big impact. It's taking Kevin's Plank net worth, which peaked around $6 billion, down to around $1 billion. This may have been one of the factors leading to the major downsizing. As money gets...
How much social housing is built by local government? You think local government builds anything?
Tighter, people tend to take less and less risks. Once again, less Dubai, more Columbia, Maryland. Then there's the logistical problems with the site. Although it does have a lot of things going for it, being right on the water and right on I-95, it also has some major problems that need to be addressed for the project to be a long-term success. While it's close to thriving neighborhoods, it's a virtually impossible walk to get from the Baltimore Peninsula to anywhere worth walking to.
And also, like, why would you ever come here? Even if all of these businesses were open, what would you even shop for here? Okay, so there's an Under Armour corporate HQ. Okay, but like what would you actually do here? What reason is there to be here?
I-95, high-speed traffic, train tracks, and private property make it an unpleasant and dangerous walk to get anywhere off the peninsula. Furthermore, there's limited public transportation, maybe a few buses here and there, but nothing significant, meaning that pretty much anybody going to the peninsula has to go by car. And when traveling...
Hey, raise your hand in chat if your city is plastered with ground floor commercial space that looks just like this. Promises of like future leasing or upcoming projects that have been stuck there for years.
By car, you have the pleasure of driving on some of the worst road surfaces in the city. Macomb Street, Hanover Street, and some of the others have legacy concrete roads riddled with potholes big enough to...
Depends on the area, not going to lie. Well, speaking from the perspective of somebody who lives in Seattle, you know which areas do have vibrant businesses that are all open? The U District near the University of Washington and Capitol Hill. Both areas that have lots and lots of foot traffic because there are tons and tons of restaurants and small shops and like unique places to go to. You know which areas are like closed down and like 90% of the commercial retail space is just empty. Downtown, the shopping district, right by like the Nordstroms, by the Pacific Mall, that area, you walk around there, horrible experience. Once you get past the mall, anything out there, a bunch of closed down shops, just empty, nothing to look through, you know? Terrible walking experience too, because the cars are all zipping right by. Did you like the shopping district in Portland? Portland's shopping district is nice. Portland's is much better than downtown Seattle, like by far. The main like commercial area of Portland is like a dense grid of very walkable, like pleasant to be on streets, except for all the like homeless people. That's good. But nothing in Portland that I saw compared to the walkability and pleasantness of Capitol Hill in Seattle. Seattle's still the gay capital.
To flatten tires and bend rims. If the peninsula isn't to a point where it...
Jesus, look at this. This specific kind of where you're like on one side you have this like big imposing block of a building, and then on the other side you just have car wasteland. I feel like this is almost worse than just walking in car wasteland. It feels like you could like trip and fall over and just sort of like plummet into the abyss. You know, I don't know. It's so weird.
It has amenities of its own yet, it should at least make it comfortable to travel to
no one
other
would find
parts
you
of the city.
It's almost more depressing how new everything here is, because it's like, oh man, they spent like $1 billion on this. Aren't those protected bike lanes though? Yeah, but they're not used, so it doesn't really matter, right?
To take advantage of those amenities. And then finally, there's just a few personal gripes that I have with this project.
See, I actually like these housing units. I like how there's a little courtyard up here. It's too bad. I bet you the rent up here is like insane.
That I don't think are playing a material impact on the project's struggles, but I think they're worth mentioning. First off, I think it was an unwise decision to demolish several of the most architecturally significant buildings on the peninsula, particularly the Gold Street Power Plant. The project seems to be going for the gritty industrial chic vibe.
That sucks.
But one of the first things to go was some of the more architecturally intriguing, historically relevant buildings.
Dude, yeah, why not like why not divide it up in the interior and like sublet it or whatever, you know? Yeah, they could have converted that. They have that in New York. There was there's like what was it, Chelsea Street or something, which was like a mall that was like a cut up like larger building. The Rainier Brewery in Seattle got cut up and turned into a bunch of different properties. Be pretty cool.
Next, in 2023, the Baltimore Sun building was demolished, but only to its slab. The slab, which was built extra thick to support the heavy printing equipment, is still there. Personally, I think they should have either kept the building and repurposed it or demolished it completely. The torn up remains of the building don't do much to change the area's negative reputation for being a bombed out industrial wasteland. And they don't provide the best view for those $2,500 a month luxury apartments.
Yep, $2,500 a month. There you go. $2,500 a month in Baltimore.
Finally, there's the noise. I-95 is elevated right above the site, and to put it bluntly, it's really annoying when you're walking around the new development. I don't know if there's really anything that could be done at this point, but it was something that I noticed almost immediately when I was walking around.
If you've got $1 billion to build this urban wasteland, you've got $1 billion to provide noise protection for I-95. You only need to put trees up around it. Trees are like some kind of like barrier. You know, sound walls do not take. It doesn't actually take that much. Like just a little bit of sound walling makes a huge difference. But it's elevated, then elevate the sound wall. I'm sure you could do it. Oh damn! Damn! No kidding. That much noise from this far away? That's fucking crazy. Yeah, Timmy, want to go to the park and just be like blanketed by the ambient noise of cars a quarter mile away, just constantly rolling by?
What does this all mean for Port Covington? I mean, Cybertown, USA? I mean, the Baltimore Peninsula? I don't really know. On the one hand, there's so many powerful people that have so much invested in the project.
The fact that they even considered calling it Cybertown USA is such a strong indicator that everyone involved in this project fucking despises human beings and is purely in this for, like, the investor money. That's it. Like, that's the only, like, no one, at the end of the day, as always, it's capitalism, right? But it's worse in America because it feels like the citizens are so disconnected from the process. The only one making any decisions about anything involving, like, city construction are the most soulless pieces of shit in the world, who are like no considerations outside of, like, which companies can we get to invest in this, you know, what, like, brand deals, what partnerships. There's absolutely no human element to it.
It's hard to envision a scenario where it's a total flop. On the other hand, it's facing some pretty significant headwinds and does seem to have lost virtually all its momentum that it once had. Now, again, as a Baltimorean, I would love to see this project succeed and create all the jobs and all the new buildings that it once thought it would. But I just am not confident that that's going to happen at this point.
All right, rec playlist, what do we got? Wendover Productions, Another Building Tales. Oh, Return to Baltimore's Billion-Dollar Ghost Town. There's a sequel? Not Just Bikes, classic. Astral Spiff completing the ultimate 24 FNAF game marathon in one stream. Damn, there's 24 FNAF games now? Alarming rise of global debt. Yeah. 52 view public transit nerd video. Okay. Downfall. Japanese salvage denim. Trump. Okay. Japanese denim. Yeah, I don't know why it's recommending this video, even though I've seen this video before. A JXC video, classic, and then a JCS criminal psychology video. As always, we explore these. You know, you all have the right to judge me. I think the only real curveball here is the Astral Spiff video. But you know what? I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a chill and positive dude. Yeah, I've seen a few of his videos. Yeah. Is JCS criminal psychology legit? I don't know. It's not really my field. Seems like confirmation bias and bullshit to me. I don't know. It seems like a lot of the stuff that is said in the videos makes sense to me on an intuitive level, but it could also just be appealing to intuition, right? Like, I don't really have a I don't really have like any way to check the info, basically. What's the Hans one? Why Japanese denim is so expensive? Presumably they're talking about indigo rinses here. It's a complicated subject. Well, hold on. Well, I am curious about the fact that there's a sequel to this.
Several months ago, I posted what turned out to be the most viewed video that I've ever put up about Baltimore's newest, most expensive, and very sparsely populated waterfront development, the Baltimore Peninsula. Despite gleaming new buildings and perfectly manicured landscaping, the place felt like a ghost town, and within 30 minutes of walking, casual.
I don't want to, like, totally just steal the video. Oh, they opened some stuff.
Restaurant and a Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but the feel overall was incredibly similar to last time, eerily empty. It still feels like the area is far enough away from the significant foot traffic that it needs to support the kind of retail that would make the area interesting to visit, and thus the neighborhood is still faced with the chicken and egg scenario I mentioned last time. No one goes there because there's nothing to do, but there's nothing to do because no one goes there.
Yeah.
There were a few new coming soon signs in the windows of retail spaces, including...
Look at how big these fucking properties are, man. This is a coffee shop? Are you kidding me? Look at this. This is like a fucking 4,000 square foot coffee store. What the hell are you... What are you filling the space with?
A karaoke bar.
This is a huge part, by the way, of why everything is so expensive in the United States. It's because commercial real estate, the rent prices, or sometimes just the property taxes on, like, businesses downtown are so pricey, and part of that is because they're so big. A lot of it is corporate greed, but a lot of it is also just the way this shit is zoned. Like, if you find, like, a hole-in-the-wall coffee place or whatever, like, they're paying way less in rent than some giant coffee place. But if you, like, think about it, man, if you go in a big coffee shop, like, are they using all of that space? Because in my opinion, like, hey, listen, okay, space is money. If you could do the same coffee shop in 1/2 the square footage, which many coffee shops in America can, you're paying less in rent. You can charge me less for coffee. Like, that's just money saved right there.
And a coffee shop, but it appears that a large number of the first floor retail spaces were still unfinished. Many still even had gravel floors in them.
Look at that property!
Retail spaces were still unfinished. Many still even had gravel.
Tell me this isn't going to be commercial. Tell me this is like a lobby.
Floors in.
Even still.
I have no idea what the rents are for these retail spaces, but it seems like the value proposition for renting at the peninsula doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now.
Yeah.
Maybe things will change going forward, but for now it seems like businesses will be paying high rent for minimal foot traffic. Clearly a bad combination for retail. Since I was there last, one of the biggest changes has been the opening of the Under Armour headquarters. It was under construction when I was there last, but now it appears to be fully functional. While this did cause a big increase in the number of cars in the area,
that's great.
I didn't really notice that translating to a more vibrant feel for the peninsula because it seemed like none of the foot traffic really carried over to the rest of the peninsula.
Yeah, why would it? The people who work there are just driving to their office. Like, why would they be like, oh, work's over at 5 p.m. I'm going to walk the quarter mile over here to go to like an overpriced coffee shop that's the size of like a car showroom, you know? Like, why would they do that?
Under Armour's building is nice, but it's a far cry from what executives were hoping for back during the company's precipitous rise. The original renderings of the campus envisioned a world-class facility. While the current one is nice, it's an unspectacular office building that would fit in most suburban areas around the country. Recent economic events have made the company's future even more uncertain, as a lot of their apparel is manufactured overseas, which is a little dicey right now. Currently, Under Armour's market cap sits at around $2.5 billion. A major...
This is Nike's corporate headquarters, which you live nearby. Kind of a cool footprint, but again, like, it's not really... It's just like a corporate headquarters, you know? It's meant to just be like a dick-waving thing, right? It's not really like, oh, this is going to revitalize the community.
Fall from the close to 20...
Corporate malls never will, by the way. Like, anyone else feel like we need to just ban that shit? Why the fuck are... Like, who decided, like, okay, in addition to all of this, like, office space, we also need a big footprint for, like, lawns and chairs no one will ever use. Like, well, in addition to all this, like, this office high-rise or something, we also need to take up, like, 50% of the footprint of the lot with nothing, with like stupid bullshit, basically.
$20 billion.
Employees like nice campuses? I don't think they do, because they park in the underground lot and then they go up the elevator to their job.
That it was a decade ago, back when the original planning for the campus started. While Under Armour is just one tenet of the peninsula, it's unquestionably seen as the cornerstone of the project.
Like, what is this, man? Who the fuck is going to sit on these weird-ass backless benches 2 inches from where the cars drive down? Well, you could always turn around and appreciate the completely featureless lawn on the opposite side of the walkway. Who? That's a bike path? I think my point stands.
So downsizing for Under Armour likely means downsizing for the Peninsula project as a whole. The most common
big bright spot.
There was one major bright spot that I saw in my trip back to the Baltimore Peninsula, and that was the progress of the other projects in the area that aren't specifically a part of the original Port Covington Baltimore Peninsula project. There's 2 mostly completed apartment buildings down near Nick's Fish House and a number of 2 over 2 townhouse apartments. The other one sort of went under the radar. It doesn't. Most importantly, they're centered around a marina, Ferry Bar Park, and the South Baltimore Classic Nick's Fish House. They just have a less artificial feel to them. They feel like a more organic development. Unlike the Port Covington project, while all parts of the peninsula have water views, the views down in this other part of the peninsula are unique due to the proximity to the historic Hanover Street Bridge. I think it's very possible that within 2 years, this area that wasn't the recipient of the big tax incentives will surpass the original development project as the most vibrant part of the peninsula. These things that I'm talking about may seem...
I mean, at the end of the day, the vibrant area will be the area where people like are. You know, that's all there is to it. It doesn't really matter what you build if nobody's there. God, look at this.
From the Baltimore Peninsula project. The minds behind the project would be well served to take some cues from the...
Anyway, cool channel. Building Tales. I guess they probably blew up recently on account of the video. Top 10 incredible Baltimore renovation. Okay, cool. All right, I'll you know what? Beep. It's my giving modern-day Soviet make-work project vibes. Listen, at least the fucking Soviet housing projects weren't being built because a bunch of, like, wealthy Silicon Valley type, you know, or like realtors want to attract these wealthy Silicon Valley tech dipshits, you know? Like, oh yeah, man, let's get the Under Armour branding. Like, they just built housing. Ugly housing, but at least they built fucking housing. Top 10 most hated public art. I could have opinions on this. I do think a lot of public art is shitty. Oh, he was originally a top 10 slop artist? Nah, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the format, right? If it does well, Vaush should do top 10s. My channel is a top 10 crash outs moment, just playing out over the long term. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, like, it's really difficult to compete with the productivity and energy of a vibrant, bustling, organically developed area. This is Capitol Hill in Seattle, which for some reason in a highly oversaturated photo, and this is like the place to go every night if you want to see a bunch of people walking around. That's it. It's not like a crazy super duper developed area or anything. There's just a lot of like dense mixed development, and that means that people can live here. You know? That's it. It's people live here, people walk here. Yippee. Seattle seems nice for an American city. Yeah, for an American city, it's pretty good. I think it's pretty all right. Shame I-5 cuts right through it. Actually, I think the I-5 is quite nice in Seattle. Genuinely. It's the only interurban highway I've ever seen that I actually think is okay. And the main reason for that is because there's a huge elevation divide on either side of it. So if you're in downtown, the I-5 is above you. And if you're on Cap Hill or Judkins or whatever, the I-5 is below you. Which means that you're shielded from the noise if you're above it. And if you're below it, there's some shielding in most parts that keep you from hearing it. Also, the Arch Convention Center goes over it, which I think is quite pretty. Can I find that? Where the hell is a photo of that? There's like this big... The arch is named because there's a big arch that goes over... Oh, look, it's me. Oh, never mind. There's an arch that goes over the I-5, and they have like a garden on it. Trying to find where you actually see the arch from the freeway. Arch Convention Center over highway? Can we get this so I can move on? Okay, this is like a terribly low resolution image. Can we find perhaps a higher resolution one? That's also a pretty bad image right there. But there's the I-5, and it's like this big overgrown brutalist concrete wall that goes over it, and there's like plants hanging down the side like ivy and stuff. Why is the image so low res, man? Here we go. That's the best I can find. I think that's quite pretty. So whenever you're driving through the freeway, you have this nice, like, you know, and it shields the noise completely in this area of downtown. So you're not gonna... This is where people ram into the wall. Yep, right there, exit 165B. That's the famous or infamous Seattle exit where people zoom out and crash. Not me, though, because I'm not a fucking idiot, and I don't take enclosed high-angle highway off-ramp turns at 65 miles an hour. Show again, we need the memes. No, I think what we need is segments, actually. I think we need segments. Consulted with my editors, and they're telling me that what we actually need is YouTube segments for YouTube.